Now, Sutta 42.10. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Now, on that occasion, the members of the king's retinue had assembled in the royal palace and were sitting together when the following conversation arose. Gold and silver represents money. Gold and silver are allowable for the ascetics following the Sakyan sun. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun consent to gold and silver. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun accept gold and silver. Now on that occasion, Mani-chulaka, the headman, was sitting in that assembly. Then Mani-chulaka, the headman, said to that assembly, "Do not speak thus, masters. Gold and silver are not allowable for the ascetics following the Sakyan sun. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun do not consent to gold and silver. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun do not accept gold and silver. They have renounced jewelry and gold. They have given up the use of gold and silver." And Mani-chulaka was able to convince that assembly. Stop here for a moment. So here, some of these people were saying that Buddhist monks are allowed to accept money. Why they say this? Because there were some rotten monks, even during the Buddha's time, who accepted money, who did not keep the precepts properly. Just as now, there are even much more monks who don't behave according to the precepts. But sometimes people misunderstand. They think the precept forbids a monk from touching money. That's not true. That is a misinterpretation by some monks purposely. The exact interpretation, after you see, according to this sutta, is that a monk is not allowed to possess money. Because if a monk possesses money, he can use the money in whichever way he likes. And if he uses the money to enjoy himself, then he's not of the nature of a monk, stated here. So in the monk's precepts, sometimes a monk is required to touch money or to touch valuable things. For example, in the monk's precepts, if a lay person comes to the monastery and left the purse with a lot of money in it and went home. So if a monk sees that, he is supposed, according to the precept, is required to take that purse and keep it for safekeeping. And then another day when that person returns to the monastery, he's supposed to hand it over to that person. So in the same way, if a monk goes to a lay person's house for dana or something, and then that lay person offers the food, and then in a hurry to do something, that lay person leaves the house, and the monk finishes his food, then he finds that the lay person maybe left a valuable diamond ring or something on the table, or a lot of money, the purse or something on the couch or something. And if the monk goes away and the house is not locked, that valuable object may get lost. So the monk is required to take that valuable object and keep it in safekeeping to return to the owner. So even in the precepts, the monk is required to do that. So a lot of people have the wrong impression that the monk is not supposed to touch the money. So why some monks interpret it in this way? Because they like to possess money. So when they possess money, like recently somebody told me about some nun. She got money in her purse, in the bag. And then she wanted to use the money. She asked the lay person to take the money from the bag and to do some charity or buy something or other. So she thinks as long as she doesn't touch the money, there's nothing wrong. That's not correct. The real thing is that you're not allowed to possess the money. So whatever money is given, say to the monastery, is not considered as belonging to the monk. It's for the use of the sangha and the present and the future. So if it is not used, it's supposed to be given back to the donors. So the monks can use the money, but they cannot at any time consider the money to be theirs. Because if the money is considered to be theirs, they can use it in any way they want. But if the money is not theirs, it's only for them to use when they require according to certain limits. That means only they can use the money only for allowable items. They cannot use it for luxurious items. So It's all very well spelled out in the Vinaya, monastic discipline. So in this case, even during the Buddha's time, some monks were accepting money. That's why these people were talking that surely the Buddha allowed these monks to accept. And this Mani Chulaka is more familiar with the Buddha. Then he told them, actually it's not allowed according to the precepts. And was able to convince them. Then Mani Chulaka approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. Sitting to one side, he reported to the Blessed One all that had happened, adding, I hope, Venerable Sir, that when I answered thus, I stated what has been said by the Blessed One, and did not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact, that I explained in accordance with the Dhamma, and that no reasonable consequences of my statement gives rise for criticism. And the Buddha said, for sure, headman, when you answered thus, you stated what has been said by me, and did not misrepresent me with what is contrary to fact. You explained in accordance with the Dhamma, and no reasonable consequence of your statement gives ground for criticism. For headman, gold and silver are not allowable for the ascetics following the Sakyan sun. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun do not consent to gold and silver. The ascetics following the Sakyan sun do not accept gold and silver. They have renounced jewelry and gold. They have given up the use of gold and silver. If gold and silver are allowable for anyone, the 5 cords of sensual pleasure are allowable for him. If the 5 cords of sensual pleasure are allowable for anyone, you can definitely consider him to be one who does not have the character of an ascetic or of a follower of the Sakyan sun. Further, headman, I say this, straw may be sought by one needing straw. Timber may be sought by one needing timber. A cart can be sought by one needing a cart. A workman may be sought by one needing a workman. But I do not say that there is any method by which gold and silver may be consented to or sought. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says, his disciples have given up money, given up jewelry and property. And here he states very clearly why he does not allow monks to possess money. He says if monks are allowed money, then they can use it to enjoy the 5 cords of sensual pleasure, to buy whatever they like to enjoy. And if they enjoy worldly pleasures, then they are definitely not of the character, of the nature of a Buddhist monk. Sakyan son is Sakyaputta, not the follower of the Buddha. Then the Buddha says, a monk is allowed to look for straw, to look for timber, to look for cart, to look for workmen, but there is no way by which a monk may be allowed to look for money. So that's why it's not allowed for a monk to raise funds and all that. So we try in as far as we can not to do anything to raise funds. If people give, then we use. Like when we started, we also lay quite low. So initially we had difficulties. But slowly as we do our work, gradually the support comes naturally. You don't have to look for money. You just do the right thing, and your karma will give you the blessings. The next sutta, 42.11. So you see, this sutta spells out exactly why money is not allowed for a monk. So here it says, if money is allowed to a monk, then he can enjoy worldly pleasures. In other words, when you say it's allowed, that means a monk is not allowed to possess money. If he considers the money as monastery money, then he cannot simply use as he likes. There are rules for using the money. The next sutta, 42.11. Bhadraka. This word sometimes Bhadragaka. In the Pali Text Society book, it's called Bhadragaka. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at a town of the Malans named Uruvela Kappa. Then Bhadraka, the headman, approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said, "It would be good, Venerable Sir, if the Blessed One would teach me about the origin and the passing away of suffering." And the Buddha said, "If headman, I were to teach you about the origin and the passing away of suffering with reference to the past, saying, 'So it was in the past,' perplexity and uncertainty about that might arise in you. And if I were to teach you about the origin and the passing away of suffering with reference to the future, saying, 'So it will be in the future,' perplexity and uncertainty about that might arise in you. Instead, headman, while I am sitting right here and you are sitting right here, I will teach you about the origin and the passing away of suffering. Listen to that and attend closely. I will speak." "Yes, Venerable Sir," Bhadraka the headman replied. The Blessed One said, "What do you think, headman? Are there any people in Uruvela Kappa on whose account sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would arise in you if they were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured?" "There are such people, Venerable Sir." "But are there any people on Uruvela Kappa on whose account sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would not arise in you in such an event?" "There are such people, Venerable Sir." Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, don't talk about suffering in the past or the future. We talk about suffering, the origin of suffering right now. The Buddha says, are there people, if they were executed or imprisoned, etc., you would feel suffering? And he says there are. You see, like if your family members, your close friends, they are imprisoned or executed, definitely you suffer. And then he asks, are there other people, if they were imprisoned and executed and all that, you will not feel anything? And he says, there are also. What headman is the cause and reason why in relation to some people in Uruvela Kappa, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would arise in you if they were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured, while in regard to others, no such sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would arise in you?" And he said, "Those people in Uruvela Kappa, Venerable Sir, in relation to whom sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would arise in me if they were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured. These are the ones for whom I have desire and attachment. But those people in Uruvela Kappa, in relation to whom no sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would arise in me, these are the ones for whom I have no desire and attachment." And the Buddha said, "Headman, by means of this principle that is seen, understood, immediately attained, fathom, apply the method to the past and to the future thus. Whatever suffering arose in the past, all that arose rooted in desire, with desire as its source, with desire as the root of suffering. Whatever suffering will arise in the future, all that will arise rooted in desire, with desire as its source, for desire is the root of suffering." And he said, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is amazing, Venerable Sir, how well that has been stated by the Blessed One. Whatever suffering arises, all that is rooted in desire, has desire as its source, for desire is the root of suffering." Let's stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, just like these people, you say, if something happened to them, they are imprisoned or executed, you feel a lot of sorrow, and you say it's because of desire for them, attachment to them. So in the same way, the Buddha said, you should realize whatever suffering in the past, that also arose for the same reason, because you have desire and attachment for them. And similarly, in the future, if you suffer at all, it's also because of your desire and attachment for some people. And then this Bhadraka said, "Venerable Sir, I have a boy named Chiravasi who stays at an outside residence. I rise early and send a man saying, Go, man, and find out how Chiravasi is. Until that man returns, Venerable Sir, I am upset, thinking, I hope Chiravasi has not met with any affliction. Let's stop here for a moment. So this headman, he has a son, and he puts him somewhere else, to stay somewhere else. Maybe he thinks if some bandits or the king decides to execute him, at least the son is not with him, will be safe. He put the son far away in some safe place. So every morning he sends a man to go and find out whether the son is alright. And the Buddha said, what do you think, headman? If Chiravasi were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair arise in you? And he said, Venerable Sir, if Chiravasi were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured, even my life would be upset. So how could sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair not arise in me? So he's saying, if something happened to his son, his whole life he will be upset. Then the Buddha said, in this way too, headman, it can be understood. Whatever suffering arises, all that arises rooted in desire, with desire as its source, for desire is the root of suffering. What do you think, headman? Before you saw Chiravasi's mother or heard about her, did you have any desire, attachment or affection for her? No, Venerable Sir. Then was it, headman, because of seeing her or hearing about her, that this desire, attachment and affection arose in you? Yes, Venerable Sir. What do you think, headman? If Chiravasi's mother were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair arise in you? And he said, Venerable Sir, if Chiravasi's mother were to be executed, imprisoned, fined or censured, even my life would be upset. So how could sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair not arise in me? And the Buddha said, in this way too, headman, it can be understood. Whatever suffering arises, all that arises rooted in desire, with desire as its source, for desire is the root of suffering. That's the end of the sutta. So you see, the Buddha says, all suffering arises because of desire, because of attachment. There's one sutta where the Buddha said this, and somebody was not happy. He said, he has a lot of desire for his son or his daughter. So he thinks the son or the daughter gives him a lot of happiness. But he doesn't realize when something happens to the son or the daughter, then that extreme happiness turns to extreme pain and suffering. So this happiness and suffering are just two sides of our hand, two sides of a coin. They come together. If you have happiness, you must have suffering. So if you do away with happiness, then only you do away with suffering. And that's the path, that's the holy path. If you don't want suffering, then you don't want enjoyment, you don't want happiness also. So you see this part, the Buddha asked him, before you saw Chiravasi's mother or heard about her, did you have any desire, attachment or affection for her? He said, no, Venerable Sir. It's interesting because a lot of us, we chase after things, and the things we chase after, we think they give us a lot of happiness. But later when something happens because of impermanence, they are the very things that give us suffering. So in this world, if you didn't chase after so many things, you don't have so many things, then you won't suffer so much. Okay, I think for this Samyutta, that's enough, because the next two suttas here are extremely long, but not much Dhamma in them. So we come to the next chapter, chapter 43, Asankhata-samyutta. Asankhata means unconditioned. Sankhata means conditioned things. So Asankhata is unconditioned, and unconditioned always refers to Nibbana, state of Nibbana. things in the world are all conditioned. That means there is birth or arising, and then there is, after it arises, then it stays for a while. Then after that, it starts to deteriorate. Then after that, it ceases or dies. But the unconditioned, there is no birth, there's no change, and there's no cessation, death. The first Sutta 43.1 at Savatthi, Buddha said, "Monks, I will teach you the unconditioned and the path leading to the unconditioned." Listen to that. And what, monks, is the unconditioned? The destruction of lust, the destruction of hatred, the destruction of delusion. This is called the unconditioned. For Nibbana also the same. When a person attains Nibbana, there is destruction of lust, hatred and delusion. And what, monks, is the path leading to the unconditioned? Mindfulness directed to the body. This is called the path leading to the unconditioned. Thus, monks, I have taught you the unconditioned and the path leading to the unconditioned. Whatever should be done, monks, by a compassionate teacher out of compassion for his disciples, desiring their welfare, that I have done for you. These are the feet of trees, monks. These are empty huts or kutis. Meditate, monks. Do not be negligent, lest you regret it later. This is our instruction to you. It's the end of the sutta. So the Buddha says, the path to the unconditioned is mindfulness directed to the body. This body can be our human body. It can be something else, like the Buddha says. The breath is also considered a body. So any form that you put attention on, you meditate on that form, that will bring you to the form jhana, that can be considered body. Because when we meditate, our aim is to attain the rupa jhanas first, and if possible, the arupa jhanas. So why I say this? Because in the Majjhima Nikaya Suttas, Venerable Ananda said the type of meditation praised by the Buddha is the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. So means that Buddhist meditation is the first jhana, second, third, fourth jhana. So the aim of meditation is to attain these four jhanas. Now to attain these four jhanas, you have to, these four jhanas are also called rupa jhanas. And rupa jhanas, to attain rupa jhana, you have to meditate on rupa. Rupa is a form. As a form. So it can be this body, it can be out of this body also. If you meditate on the form, they will bring you to the form jhana. So here the Buddha says, mindfulness directed to the body. That means to one object. Remember we went through one sutta where we talk about the unrestrained mind, the simile of the 6 animals that were allowed to go in 6 different directions. Then the Buddha says, to tame them, you have to tie them to a stout post or pillar. So that stout post or pillar represents one object of meditation. We meditate only on one object. If our mind strays away, we pull it back to that one object. The one object can be the breath, or it can be any other object, any other form. So here, it's mindfulness directed to the body. So the Buddha says, meditate, monks. This word meditate here in Pali is jayata. Jayata, you can consider it also to cultivate jhana. Cultivate jhana, monks. Do not be negligent. The next sutta is 43.2. The Buddha said, monks, I will teach you the unconditioned and the path leading to the unconditioned. Listen to that. And what, monks, is the unconditioned? The destruction of lust, the destruction of hatred, the destruction of delusion. This is called the unconditioned. And what, monks, is the path leading to the unconditioned? Samatha and vipassana. This is called the path leading to the unconditioned. That's the end of the sutta. So, to attain the unconditioned Nibbana, 2 things are necessary. Samatha and vipassana. It's just like nowadays, with the commentaries have misled people to believe that vipassana alone is enough for liberation. This totally contradicts the Buddha's word. The Buddha says here, both samatha and vipassana are necessary. And several other suttas, the Buddha also mentioned this. The Buddha also mentioned that when you cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path totally, then samatha and vipassana will be led to work together in you. So, what is samatha? Samatha is meditation. Meditation meaning cultivation of calmness, tranquility, until you attain perfect samadhi. And perfect samadhi in the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path, or the Buddha's teachings, is the 4 jhanas. All the 4 jhanas is samatha. And what is vipassana? Vipassana is contemplation. Contemplation. So when we listen to the Dhamma, and this contemplation is automatic. The moment you listen to Dhamma, the mind digests that Dhamma. That is contemplation. And when you understand the Dhamma, that will lead you to attain some path and fruition. So depending on your state of samadhi, if you don't have the 4 jhanas, when you listen to the suttas, you can attain sotapanna, first fruit or second fruit. But to attain the anagamin, the 3rd fruit and the 4th fruit, it is very clear in the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta that the Buddha says, you absolutely need the 4 jhanas. When a person has the 4 jhanas and he listens to a sutta like the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta or the Adita Pariyaya Sutta, then that person can become an anagamin or an arahant. So your attainment depends entirely on your samadhi, how calm your mind is. Because the deeper the samadhi, the purer the mind. And the Buddha says, a bright mind is the best condition for knowledge and insight to occur in the Anguttara Nikaya Sutta. So I'll stop here for tonight. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
When one comes to attach to the precept, one tends to develop aversion towards the moon. So, it says that not eating afternoon, taking a time on ourselves, and stress to ourselves, if I want to see the sun almost high noon, and we have to stop down after very fast, and this is to keep that precept, and people we mentioned that both precept and knowledge of earth.
We cannot talk like that now because it contradicts the Buddha's word. But sometimes we may need to relax the rules slightly, if at all necessary. But generally speaking, we should uphold these precepts as best as we can. For example, sometimes a monk is working on a project, say like building a kuti or working on the water pipes or something, and they cannot finish in time. So you see, like according to our Vinaya, we have to eat before noon, finish the meal before noon. But sometimes because we are working and we cannot run away, and you have to finish the job. By the time you finish the job, it's maybe half an hour past noon. So in that respect, maybe you can relax slightly because of your work. You have to eat a bit late. But those very rarely occur. Those kind of circumstances very rarely occur. So you cannot generalize and say that you should not be attached to the precepts. The thing is, the Buddha says that we must understand the purpose of the precepts. So the purpose of the precepts is to help us lead a very disciplined life. When we lead a disciplined life, then only we can discipline ourselves and we are not sloppy. So then only you can progress on the spiritual path, because the spiritual path needs a lot of discipline. Absolutely a huge amount of discipline. For example, the Buddha's teachings for us is to lead us on to liberation, to become an arahant. If you want to hope to become an arahant, you have to keep cutting your sleep. Keep cutting your sleep until you don't sleep at all. You are mindful 24 hours a day. If you don't have discipline, how can you do that? That's not. So, keeping this precept, not eating afternoon, is such a small precept. And it is such a small thing to do in the holy life. And if you can't even do such a small thing, what big thing can you do? Yes, so we have to be very careful.
Referring to Sutta 42.9 and 42.8, the line is Asankhata-samyutta. He takes refuge in the Buddha twice. In Sutta 42.9, he took instruction from Gamani-samyutta to approach Buddha and try to put down the Buddha. So, can we assume that he wasn't converted?
Yes, so in that case, where Niganta-Nataputta asked him to go and refute the Buddha's Dhamma, at that time he definitely, it would appear definitely that he was a follower of the Niganta. And then how about the 42.8? Sometimes this one, there might be a mistake that they added this last part of taking refuge twice. Could be that in 42.9, probably at that time he was definitely a disciple of the Nigantas. And then 42.8, I would think on that occasion he was already a disciple of the Buddha. We see small mistakes like this can appear in the suttas because they were sort of transmitted from one mouth to another. So probably at the end of 42.8, there should be no taking of refuge in the Buddha because he's already a disciple of the Buddha. That's why the Buddha could talk to him about Niganta-Nataputta's teaching.
Another question is very technical things that have been mentioned, and these belong to the center of Sangha, belonging to the Sangha. So, for example, during today's speakers, speaking outside of schools whatsoever, so we also as residents, we have the duty to also belong to life or other schools, or even and salvage, to do or means to salvage.
There are some things that belong to the Sangha. There are some things you can say belong to the monastery, not only the Sangha. And there are some things that don't belong to the Sangha. For example, food. Unless it is like things that allowable at night. Say like dark chocolate and prunes and dates and all that. If it's offered to the Sangha, then it belongs to the Sangha. Unless the Sangha thinks they have access, then they can give it to lay people, to the residents, the lay residents to use. And then there are certain things like monastery tools is meant for everybody, all the residents to use. But it is not strictly Sangha property, it's for general use of the residents. So even though it is not strictly Sangha property, it's a monastery property, but still lay people should be careful how they use it and not to damage it. If possible, take good care of it and put it properly. I remember in the sutta, one of the causes for the downfall, destruction of a family is to misplace items. Simply use items and simply misplace it, and then months later you find a rusted parang somewhere because somebody mislaid it somewhere and never bothered to bring it back or something. So I have to be careful. But of course sometimes we are not arahants, we are not mindful 24 hours a day. So sometimes small slip-ups like this forgivable. Even monks also do it, you see. The thing is, we try our best. Don't be sloppy. Sometimes we have bad habits from the past. So when you come to live in a monastery, you try to be more disciplined. Try to value the things in the monastery, because a lot of things given in the monastery are given by devotees with a lot of devotion. Sometimes they themselves can't afford to use certain things or eat certain things, but because of the devotion to the Sangha, they offer certain things which are good quality. So don't go and waste it. Learn to appreciate.
The other thing is about covetousness. For example, if you have lots of activities, time, donated by many people, sometimes we see people become at once very satisfied, the life and then ability to become something for such market so many around. So most of those who ask, so let's use the form of covetousness.
Oh no, covetousness means like taking without permission. But this is a slight greed. It's not covetousness, it's slight greed. They see something good, you want to possess it. I see it in a lot of people. Sometimes they see anything for free, they quickly want to take. But they take so much, sometimes they bring home, they never use. Some people bring a lot of CDs home. Do they listen to all of it? If you don't listen to all of it, you are wasting the devotees' funds. It's not good for you. Some people also take a lot of books, bring home, never read. That's not good. If you don't read, pass it to somebody else. You have no time to read, give it to somebody else. Don't hoard it. Some people like to hoard. Sometimes some people, they say they want something. And then when they find they have to pay for it, then they change their mind. So just because it's available free, they have a different attitude. So we have to be careful. This is when we come to the Dhamma, we learn to be more skillful, to lead our lives more skillfully, and always reflect. The Buddha says, what you have done in the past, always reflect whether it's correct or not. And what you are doing now, also you must reflect whether it's good or not, good karma or not, skillful karma or not. And then what you are going to do also, you must reflect whether you should do it or should not do it, whether it's skillful or unskillful. So when we reflect in this way, then our three karmas are very pure. When our three karmas are very pure, we are always very happy. Very happy. You don't have remorse. And when your mind is happy, when you meditate, you will calm down very fast. Calm down and attain concentration.
So, for one slice of bread, we use 4 knots of butter. For one slice of bread, we use 4 cans of iron. So, are we using up our karma?
It's like this, so have to reflect on this. But of course, if you work very hard, then you deserve it. Never mind, close an eye. Give and take in this monastery, give and take. There's some monasteries are not so generous like here. There's some monasteries, they only bring out the drinks at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And then after you take one drink, they keep all the Milo and the coffee and all that. Here it's available 24 hours a day. You can enjoy yourself. Our karma is good, so we have a lot of offerings. When we stay in Thailand, we stay in those forest monasteries. 5:30 we go in the bath, arms around. By 7 o'clock we are back. We walk through the village, sometimes go to many houses, Sometimes rain also you have to go carry umbrella, come back all wet. Then we go and sweep the floor and all these things. About 1 hour later, what time? 8:30 or what? We will eat. Eat. Very early we eat. Eat only one meal. After eating that one meal, the rest of the day, nothing to eat. And then if the monastery is well supported, like what Panana Chat, 4 o'clock we have our drink. And then your cup must be a small cup. Last time when I first went, I didn't know my cup was slightly bigger. They look at me and frown. Then give me even less. So at 4 o'clock, either we drink coffee, quite thick coffee, very sweet coffee, or we drink cocoa. Small amount only. That's all. Nothing else. Sometimes you are lucky, and sometimes you get a bit of cheese. Each one got 1 slice of cheese. Sometimes you get 1 or 2 pieces of dark chocolate. So 4 o'clock we have our drink, we chat a bit with the abbot, about half an hour, 1 hour like that. After that we go back to our kuti. Or before we go for the drink, you must go and do some work. Go to the well, go and haul the water from the well, put it in the buckets. 2 monks would carry the pole, the bamboo pole, the bucket in between the 2 monks, walking. Go to the toilet and clean the toilet, and clean the bathroom, and then fill up the water. The waters like the monks, when they come back from alms round, they're supposed to wash their feet. There's a place where they have water, wash their feet. That one, you change the water. Every day must change the water, put water in there. So after the work only, we go and enjoy a drink. After the drink, go back and bathe. Then after that, evening chanting and all that. So you see, the monastery quite well supported. Also, you have 1 drink only. You go to a lot of other monasteries in Thailand, even that 1 drink also cannot get. So, what happened? Because we take only 1 meal, you dare not drink too much water. You drink too much water, you feel hungry. So you must control your water. When you're thirsty only, drink a bit of water. Thirsty, drink a bit of water. Drink too much water, at night, the stomach grumbling, crock, 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 crock. So in Malaysia, we are very fortunate. And among the monasteries in Malaysia, we are very well supported. We have a lot of drinks and all that anytime available. So must appreciate it. Okay, shall we end here?